The night we first met, it was a warm summer evening, and Lily, 26, sat by the window of a small cafe in the city, lost in her thoughts. She had just finished a long day at work, where she was a junior architect, designing buildings she hoped would stand the test of time. Her hair was tied loosely, a few strands falling over her face, and her favorite light blue dress hugged her in all the right places. She loved this cafe. The smell of coffee beans, the soft music, and the cozy atmosphere made it her little escape from the world. But tonight felt different. There was something in the air, something she couldn't quite describe. As she sipped her coffee, she saw Jake enter the cafe. He was tall, with dark hair that curled slightly at the edges, and he looked like someone who didn't care much about fitting in. He wore a simple white shirt and jeans, but there was something about the way he moved, confidently but with a hint of mystery, that caught her attention. Jake looked around the cafe as if searching for something or someone, and then his eyes locked with Lily's. For a moment, everything else faded. The noise, the people, even the music, it all disappeared. There was just the two of them. Lily felt her heart skip a beat, her breath catching in her throat. She quickly looked away, feeling her cheeks flush, but when she glanced back, Jake was still looking at her, with a smile that sent a shiver down her spine. He walked over to her table. "Mind if I sit here?" he asked, his voice deep and smooth, like a secret she wanted to hear more of. Lily hesitated for a second, but then nodded. "Sure, go ahead." He sat down, his presence filling the space. They talked, and it was easy, like they had known each other forever. They laughed about silly things like the cafe's slow service, and shared stories from their lives. Jake told her about his job as a photographer and how he loved capturing the world through his lens, while Lily talked about her passion for architecture. As the evening went on, the tension between them grew. Every accidental touch, his hand brushing hers as he passed the sugar, their knees touching under the table, sent sparks flying. It was like there was a magnet pulling them closer. When the cafe began to close, neither of them wanted the night to end. "Want to go for a walk?" Jake asked, standing up and offering his hand to her. Lily didn't hesitate this time. She took his hand, feeling the warmth of his skin against hers, and they walked out into the cool night. The city was quiet, with only the soft hum of cars in the distance. They walked side by side, talking about everything and nothing at all. At one point, Jake stopped, gently tugging her hand, pulling her closer. Lily looked up at him, her heart racing. The way he looked at her, it was like she was the only person in the world. "You're beautiful. You know that," he whispered, his voice low, almost a whisper as he leaned in closer. Lily's breath hitched. She could feel the heat between them, the closeness of his body against hers. She wanted to close the gap between them to feel his lips on hers. And then it happened. Jake leaned down, his lips brushing softly against hers, testing the waters. It was gentle at first, like he was savoring the moment. But then the kiss deepened. His hand slid around her waist, pulling her closer, and she wrapped her arms around his neck. They kissed under the moonlight, slow and passionate, like they had all the time in the world. When they finally pulled away, breathless, Jake rested his forehead against hers. "I've wanted to do that since the moment I saw you," he said, his voice husky, his breath warm against her skin. Lily smiled, her heart racing. "Me too." The night didn't end there. They found a small park nearby and sat on the grass, talking until the early hours of the morning, their bodies close, hands intertwined. They talked about their dreams, their fears, their past relationships, and their hopes for the future. By the time the sun began to rise, Lily felt like she had known Jake for a lifetime, and as they walked back to her apartment, she knew this was just the beginning of something special. But as perfect as the night was, Lily couldn't shake the feeling that this love might not be as easy as it seemed. There was something about Jake, something he wasn't telling her. And deep down, she feared that whatever it was, it could tear them apart before they even had a chance. The Night We First Met, Part 2. The next few weeks passed like a dream for Lily and Jake. Every day felt like an adventure. They would meet after work, sometimes at the cafe where they first met, sometimes at new places Jake suggested. A cozy bookstore, a quiet rooftop, or even just wandering the city streets, hand in hand. It was so easy being with Jake. They talked about everything. Lily would tell him about her stressful projects at work, and Jake would share the stories behind the photographs he took. Sometimes they'd just sit in comfortable silence, enjoying each other's presence. But no matter what, there was always a spark between them, a tension that made even the quiet moments feel electric. One night, they went to a small bar where a live band was playing. The music was soft, slow, and romantic. Jake stood up, holding his hand out to Lily. "Dance with me." Lily hesitated, feeling shy for a moment. "I'm not really a good dancer," she laughed nervously. Jake's smile was playful, his eyes teasing. "Good thing I didn't ask for a good dancer. I asked for you. That was all it took." Lily took his hand, and Jake led her to the small dance floor. The moment they started moving, everything else faded away. He held her close, his hands resting on her waist, and Lily placed her arms around his neck. Their bodies moved together slowly, swaying to the music, their faces inches apart. The lights in the bar were dim, and the world outside felt like a distant memory. As they danced, Jake leaned in close to her ear, his voice low and soft. "You feel so perfect in my arms," he whispered. Lily's heart fluttered. She looked up at him, her breath catching as their eyes met. Without a word, Jake lowered his lips to hers, kissing her again. This time, slower, deeper. The kiss was full of longing, like they were both trying to hold on to the moment, to each other. His hands pulled her closer, their bodies pressed together, and for a second, it felt like they were the only two people in the world. When they finally broke the kiss, Lily's cheeks were flushed, her heart pounding in her chest. She looked at Jake and saw the same intensity in his eyes. "I've never felt like this before," she admitted softly, her voice barely a whisper. Jake smiled, his thumb gently brushing over her cheek. "Neither have I." As the night went on, they laughed, flirted, and talked about silly things. Jake told her about the time he accidentally called his boss's mom during a meeting, and Lily couldn't stop laughing. She felt free, like she could be completely herself with him, and that was rare. But as the night grew late, something shifted. There was a moment just before they left the bar when Jake seemed distant. His usual playful smile faded, and a shadow crossed his face. Lily noticed it, but she didn't say anything at first. Maybe he was just tired. When they walked back to her apartment, holding hands, she could feel the tension growing. Something was on his mind, but he wasn't telling her. Inside the apartment, they sat on her couch, and Lily finally asked, "What's wrong, Jake? You've been quiet." Jake hesitated, running his hand through his hair. He looked away, biting his lip as if trying to find the right words. "There's something I haven't told you, Lily." Her heart sank. She knew this moment would come, but she wasn't prepared for it. "What is it?" she asked, her voice soft, nervous. Jake sighed, leaning forward, his elbows resting on his knees. "Before I met you, I was in a relationship. It ended badly. I wasn't ready to get serious with someone again. Until you." Lily felt a wave of relief, but also a new sense of vulnerability. She had fallen so hard for him, and now she was learning more about his past. But this was part of love, wasn't it? Sharing the parts of yourself that you're afraid to reveal. She took his hand, squeezing it gently. "I don't care about your past, Jake. I care about what we have now." Jake looked at her, his eyes full of emotion. "I didn't expect to meet someone like you. I didn't expect to feel this much this fast." There was a pause, and then out of nowhere, tears filled Lily's eyes. She hadn't realized just how much she had fallen for him until this moment. Jake noticed, pulling her into his arms. "Hey, don't cry," he whispered, his lips pressing softly against her forehead. "I'm here." But the tears kept coming, and she wasn't sure why. Maybe it was the fear of getting hurt, the fear that this love might not last. She pulled back slightly, looking at him through her tears. "I'm scared, Jake. I'm scared of losing this. Losing you." Jake cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs wiping away her tears. "I'm not going anywhere," he promised. "I'm yours, Lily. All of me." The intensity of his words made her heart ache in the best way. She leaned in, kissing him deeply, her fingers tangling in his hair. The kiss was full of passion, full of everything they hadn't said yet, everything they felt but were afraid to admit. That night, they didn't just kiss. They talked for hours, their bodies close, their fingers exploring each other's skin. They laughed, cried, shared secrets, and made promises. It was the kind of night that felt endless, like the world had stopped just for them. Lily woke up the next morning to the sound of rain against the window. Jake was still asleep beside her, his arm draped over her waist, his breath soft and steady. She watched him for a while, her heart full. She wanted this, wanted him, more than she had ever wanted anything before. But as she lay there, something strange happened. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand, and when she reached for it, there was a message from an unknown number. "You don't know who you're with, Lily. Be careful. He's hiding something." Her heart stopped. The words sent a chill down her spine. She looked at Jake, still asleep, and suddenly, the peaceful morning didn't feel so peaceful anymore. The Night We First Met, Part 3. Lily's heart raced as she stared at the message on her phone. The words felt like a cold splash of water, cutting through the warmth of the moment. "You don't know who you're with, Lily. Be careful. He's hiding something." The anxiety bubbled inside her. Was Jake really hiding something? She glanced back at him. He looked so peaceful, his dark hair tousled, lips slightly parted as he breathed softly. The sight of him made her heart swell. She didn't want to believe that he could be anything but the man who had shown her so much kindness and affection. But the message lingered in her mind, clawing at her thoughts. She decided to put her phone down, reminding herself that she had to trust Jake. They had built something special over the last few weeks, hadn't they? As if sensing her turmoil, Jake stirred awake, stretching lazily. He turned to her, a sleepy smile breaking across his face. "Morning. Beautiful," he murmured, his voice thick with sleep. "Morning," she replied, her heart fluttering despite the doubts creeping in. Jake propped himself up on one elbow, his eyes sparkling. "What's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost." Lily hesitated, her mind racing. Should she tell him about the message? Would it ruin the beautiful moment they were having? "Oh, it's nothing," she finally said, forcing a smile. "Just didn't sleep well." He studied her for a moment, his expression turning serious. "You can tell me anything. You know that, right?" "I know," she said softly, feeling a wave of warmth at his concern. "It's just one of those days." Jake nodded, his gaze lingering on her. "All right, but remember, I'm here for you no matter what." They spent the morning together, sharing breakfast, laughing over pancakes, and enjoying the sound of rain tapping against the window. But in the back of Lily's mind, the message hung like a dark cloud. After breakfast, Jake suggested they watch a movie. They curled up on the couch, his arm around her head resting against his shoulder. As they watched a romantic comedy, Lily tried to focus on the screen, but her thoughts drifted to the message. Midway through the movie, she decided she couldn't keep it to herself any longer. "Jake," she said, breaking the comfortable silence. "Yeah," he replied, looking down at her, his brow furrowed in concern. "I got a weird message this morning from an unknown number." Jake's expression shifted to one of curiosity mixed with concern. "What did it say?" She took a deep breath, gathering her courage. "It said that I should be careful because you're hiding something." Silence filled the room. Jake's expression darkened, and Lily's heart sank at the sudden shift in the atmosphere. "Who sent it?" he asked, his voice steady but tense. "I don't know. I just got it this morning." She looked into his eyes, searching for answers. "Do you have something to tell me?" For a moment, Jake looked away, his jaw tightening. Lily felt the weight of his silence. She could see the inner conflict in his eyes. "There are things in my past that I haven't shared with you," he finally admitted, his voice low. Her heart raced. "What things, Jake?" He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Before I became a photographer, I was in a different world. One that I'm not proud of. I got involved with people I shouldn't have. Made choices I regret. I've been trying to leave that behind to be a better man." Lily felt a rush of conflicting emotions. Relief that he was finally opening up, but also fear. "Are you in any danger now?" "No, not anymore. But my past can sometimes catch up with me," he said, his eyes serious. "I didn't want to scare you, Lily. That's why I didn't tell you." Lily took a moment to process everything. "I appreciate you telling me this, but you should have trusted me with the truth. I want to know you, all of you." Jake nodded, his gaze softening. "I'm sorry. I wanted to protect you." She took his hand, squeezing it gently. "I can handle it. I just wish you would let me in." The tension between them eased a little, but Lily could still feel a lingering doubt. They returned to watching the movie, but the light-hearted dialogue didn't fill the air the same way. Instead, it felt heavy with unspoken words. After the movie, they decided to go for a walk to clear their heads. The rain had stopped, and the streets were glistening. As they strolled side by side, Lily felt Jake's warmth beside her, but her mind kept wandering back to the message. "Maybe we should go somewhere," she suggested, trying to shake off her unease. "A little trip or something." Jake looked thoughtful. "What did you have in mind?" "Maybe the beach. I know a little spot where it's usually quiet." The idea of being somewhere serene away from the city felt comforting. Jake smiled, clearly liking the idea. "That sounds perfect. Let's do it." As they walked, Lily felt a flicker of excitement at the thought of escaping, but her mind kept circling back to that message. The warning, the uncertainty. The next day they packed a small bag and headed to the beach. The sun was shining, and the waves crashed gently against the shore. Lily felt her worries begin to fade as they laid out their blanket, the warmth of the sun embracing them. They spent the day playing in the water, laughing as they splashed each other, building sandcastles, and sharing stories about their childhood. Felt like a dream. But as the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Lily couldn't shake the feeling that something was lurking just out of sight. Later, as they sat together watching the horizon, Lily felt bold. "Do you remember your first kiss?" she asked, turning to Jake with a playful smile. Jake chuckled, his eyes sparkling. "Oh, definitely. It was awkward and messy, but so memorable." "How about you?" Lily laughed, remembering her first kiss in high school. "I was so nervous. I accidentally kissed him on the cheek instead of his lips." Jake grinned, leaning closer. "Let's make a new memory then." He leaned in, capturing her lips in a soft kiss. It was tender and sweet, but then Jake deepened it, pulling her closer. Lily melted into him, forgetting everything around them. Suddenly, a shadow fell over them, interrupting the moment. Lily pulled back, looking up to see a man standing there. His face was familiar, but she couldn't place it at first. He wore a leather jacket and had a confident, cocky smile. "Well, well, well. If it isn't Jake and his new girlfriend," the man said, his tone dripping with sarcasm. Lily's heart dropped. She recognized him now. It was someone from Jake's past, someone who had been part of the world he had left behind. Jake stiffened beside her, his expression turning serious. "What do you want, Mark?" Mark smirked, taking a step closer. "I just came to see how the other half lives." "You've really moved on, huh? Nice little life you have here." Lily felt tension crackle in the air. Jake was tense, his body rigid beside her. "Leave us alone, Mark," he said firmly. Mark shrugged, but his eyes glinted with mischief. "You know I can't do that. You left a lot of unfinished business, Jake. You think you can just walk away?" Lily looked back and forth between them, confusion swirling in her mind. "What does he mean by unfinished business?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jake turned to her, his face tight. "Just ignore him, Lily. He's trying to get a rise out of me." But Mark wasn't done. "Oh, I wouldn't ignore me if I were you." "I know things, Lily. Things about Jake that he hasn't told you." Lily felt a chill run down her spine. "What things?" she asked, her heart pounding. Mark opened his mouth to speak, But Jake jumped in, standing up, his fists clenched. "You need to leave. Now." Mark laughed, taking a step back, but not leaving. "You'll regret this, Jake. I'll be around." With that, he turned and walked away, leaving a cloud of tension behind him. Lily looked at Jake, worry etched across her face. What was that about? Jake ran a hand through his hair, his expression frustrated. "It's nothing. Just someone from my past trying to stir trouble. You don't have to worry about him." But Lily couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story. The warning in the message echoed in her mind, and her heart felt heavy. "I want to know everything, Jake. I can't ignore this." Jake sighed, looking conflicted. "I promise. I'll tell you everything when I'm ready. Just trust me." Lily wanted to trust him, but the fear was creeping in. The Night We First Met, Part 4. Lily felt her heart pounding as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the beach. The warmth of the day was fading, and so was the carefree atmosphere. Jake's expression was strained, and she sensed that the encounter with Mark had shaken him more than he wanted to admit. "Jake, please," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "You can't just brush this off. I need to understand what's going on. Who is Mark, really? And what does he want from you?" Jake took a deep breath, his shoulders tense. He looked out at the waves crashing against the shore, as if searching for answers in the rhythmic motion of the ocean. "Mark was part of a group I was involved with before I started fresh here. It's complicated." "Complicated how?" Lily pressed, feeling a mix of frustration and fear. "Did you owe him something? Is he dangerous?" He turned to her, his gaze intense. "I left that life behind for a reason, Lily. I didn't want any part of it anymore. I thought I could leave it all behind when I moved here. But Mark doesn't seem to understand that." The weight of his words hung heavily in the air. Lily could see the pain in Jake's eyes, the struggle he faced between his past and the future he wanted with her. "But what did you do, Jake? What are you afraid of?" Jake looked conflicted, as if he were grappling with a decision. Finally, he sat back down beside her, his voice low. "I got involved in some illegal activities, things I regret deeply. I thought I could make quick money to help my family, but it spiraled out of control. Mark was part of that world." Lily felt a mixture of sympathy and anxiety. She reached for his hand, squeezing it gently. "You're not that person anymore. You've changed. But you have to trust me enough to share your past with me fully." He nodded slowly, his expression softening as he looked at her. "You're right. I need to be honest with you. I just didn't want to scare you away. You're not scaring me, Jake. But secrets, they can destroy what we have. I need to know that you're safe." He sighed, running a hand through his hair again, a sign of his agitation. "Okay, I'll tell you everything. Just give me a moment to collect my thoughts." They sat in silence for a moment, the sounds of the waves crashing against the shore filling the space between them. Lily's heart raced, knowing that this moment could change everything. Finally, Jake spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "There were things I did that I'm ashamed of. I was involved in smuggling drugs mostly. I didn't want to, but it was the only way I felt I could make money. I got caught up in the thrill, and it took me down a dark path." Lily's heart sank. She had suspected that there was more to Jake than he had shared, but this was more than she had anticipated. And Mark, what does he have to do with this? He was my connection when I tried to break away. He made it clear that it wouldn't be easy. He's not someone who just lets go. He thrives on control and intimidation. Jake's voice shook with emotion. That's why I didn't want to bring you into my life too quickly. I thought I could protect you. By keeping me in the dark? She asked, hurt seeping into her voice. Jake, I want to help you. I don't want to be a part of your life only when it's convenient. He looked down at their intertwined fingers, guilt washing over his face. I know I messed up, but I thought I could shield you from this part of me. I didn't want to drag you into my past. Lily leaned closer, her heart aching for him. You're not dragging me anywhere, Jake. I want to face this with you, no matter what it means. But I can't if you keep pushing me away. As the last light of day faded into darkness, Jake's eyes softened. You're right. I'm sorry for not trusting you completely. I promise I'll be open from now on. They sat in silence for a while, watching the stars begin to twinkle in the night sky. The air was filled with unspoken promises, and for a moment, Lily felt a sense of peace wash over her. They could get through this together as long as they were honest. That night, they returned to the beach house, the air thick with anticipation. Jake poured them both a glass of wine, and they settled on the couch, the flickering candlelight creating a warm, intimate atmosphere. Can we talk about Mark? Lily asked, her heart racing. She needed to understand what they were up against. Jake took a sip of his wine, his expression serious. He's trouble, Lily. He's the kind of guy who doesn't let go easily. I've heard he's been looking for me since I left that life. I thought I could outrun it, but clearly I can't. Lily felt a chill run down her spine. What do we do? Should we go to the police? Jake shook his head. I don't want to involve law enforcement unless it's absolutely necessary. I don't know what he's capable of, and I don't want to put you in danger. I need to handle this on my own. But I want to help you, she insisted. I can't just stand by while you face this alone. He reached for her hand, looking deep into her eyes. I know, and it means the world to me. But I need to protect you, too. Promise me you'll stay away from this. Just let me handle it. Tears pricked at her eyes. I don't want to be in the dark anymore. This is my life too, Jake. I understand, he said, his voice filled with regret. But I promise I'll do everything I can to keep you safe. I care about you too much to let anything happen to you. They sat in silence for a moment, their hands still intertwined, both aware of the challenges ahead. The comfort of their connection felt fragile against the looming threat of Jake's past. The next morning, Lily woke up to the sound of her phone buzzing. Rubbing her eyes, she picked it up and found a message from an unknown number. I hope you're enjoying your time with Jake. He has a lot of explaining to do. I'll be watching. Panic surged through her. She glanced over at Jake, still asleep beside her, the peaceful look on his face contrasting sharply with the message. Her heart raced. What was happening? Was Mark watching them? She felt the world tilt on its axis as dread settled in her stomach. Lily knew she had to make a choice. Would she confront Jake about the message and risk panicking him further? Or would she keep it to herself for now, hoping to protect him from the truth? He chose the latter. She needed more information first. She couldn't let fear dictate her actions. Later that day, they returned to the beach, determined to reclaim the joy of their previous day. They played in the water, splashing and laughing, trying to forget about the weight of their reality. But Lily's heart was heavy with the message she had received. As the sun began to set, she noticed a figure in the distance. Mark was standing on the shore, watching them with a smirk on his face. Her heart dropped. Lily grabbed Jake's hand, her voice shaking. "Jake, I think we need to go." He looked in the direction she was pointing, his expression darkening as he saw Mark. "Stay close to me," he said, pulling her closer. As they walked away from the water, Mark called out to them, his voice mocking, "Leaving already? Don't you want to hear what I have to say, Jake?" Lily felt a wave of fear wash over her. "Jake, let's just ignore him." But Jake stood his ground, his fists clenched at his sides. "What do you want, Mark?" Mark strolled closer, a smug grin on his face. "I just wanted to remind you that your past doesn't disappear just because you want it to, Jake. You can't outrun it. And neither can she." Lily shivered at his words, her anxiety spiking. "Leave her out of this, Mark," Jake said, his voice low and threatening. But Mark simply chuckled, a chilling sound that echoed against the backdrop of the ocean. "Oh, I don't think I will. She's part of the equation now, whether you like it or not." Lily felt a surge of determination. She wouldn't let Mark intimidate her or tear them apart. "You don't scare me," she said, her voice stronger than she felt. Mark's expression shifted, surprise flickering in his eyes. "Feisty, aren't you? Just remember you don't know what you're dealing with." Jake took a step forward, blocking her from Mark's gaze. "We're leaving. This isn't your playground anymore." Lily felt Jake's protectiveness wash over her. But the tension. The night we first met. Final part. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm golden glow over the beach, Lily and Jake sat in silence, the tension from Mark's unexpected visit still lingering in the air. Jake took a deep breath, attempting to shake off the encounter. "Let's not let him ruin our day," he said, forcing a smile. "You're right," Lily replied, trying to match his optimism. "We were having such a good time." Jake turned to her, his eyes sparkling with mischief. "How about we have a little contest? Let's see who can build the best sandcastle. Loser has to do something embarrassing." Lily couldn't help but laugh at the idea. "Okay, but what's the punishment for the loser?" Jake raised an eyebrow, smirking. "The loser has to wear a ridiculous hat and sing 'I'm a Little Teapot' at the next family gathering." "Deal," she said, her competitive spirit ignited. They jumped up, gathering sand and shells as they raced to build their castles. Jake's was elaborate, complete with a moat and little flags. Lily, on the other hand, focused on creativity. She sculpted a whimsical tower, complete with a tiny door and windows. As they worked, laughter filled the air, washing away the remnants of tension. When they finally stood back to admire their creations, they couldn't help but burst into laughter at the sight. "Yours looks like a royal castle, and mine looks like a fairy tale gone wrong," Lily exclaimed, trying to catch her breath. Jake feigned shock. "Fairy tale or not, I'm still the king of this beach." He playfully bowed, and Lily couldn't help but join in, spinning around dramatically. Just as they were reveling in their silly banter, Jake suddenly stopped and looked at her seriously. "Lily, about that message." She held up a hand. "Before you say anything, Let's put Mark behind us. He doesn't define us or our future." Jake nodded, appreciating her strength. "You're right. And I want our future to be bright and full of laughter." "Speaking of the future," Lily said, her eyes sparkling with mischief, "how many kids do you want?" Jake laughed, surprised by the sudden shift in conversation. "Well, I suppose I could handle a couple of little troublemakers. What about you?" "Definitely, but only if they inherit your sense of humor and my love for baking," she joked, grinning widely. "Oh, we're going to have a chaotic kitchen," he laughed, shaking his head. "Can you imagine our kids covered in flour and frosting?" Lily leaned closer, her heart swelling at the thought. "And we'd have to promise to take 1,000,000 pictures to embarrass them later. Remember when you thought it was cool to wear that icing on your face?" Jake burst out laughing, the sound infectious. "They'd probably disown us. But honestly, I can't wait for all the family adventures we'll have, like finding the perfect house together." Lily's face lit up at the thought. "Yes, and it should have a big backyard for our kids to run around and maybe a tree house." "I always wanted one." Jake's eyes sparkled with excitement. "Absolutely. A tree house with a slide, swings, and maybe even a little secret club inside, and a garden where we can grow veggies," Lily added, her imagination running wild. "We could teach our kids how to plant and care for them. And when they ask where carrots come from, we'll have the perfect answer." Jake laughed heartily. "You're envisioning an idyllic life, aren't you? Just imagine the family dinners we'll have, with everyone laughing around the table." "Yes," Lily exclaimed, caught up in the vision. "And we'll make a tradition of Friday night game nights. The kids will fight over who gets to sit next to us. And you'll have to wear that silly hat if you lose at Monopoly." Jake feigned horror. "Not the hat, but for you, I'd suffer through it." Lily giggled, leaning against him. "And we'll always make time for our date nights, just the two of us. Because while we'll be busy with kids, we can't forget about us." "Of course," he replied softly, wrapping an arm around her. "We'll keep the romance alive no matter how crazy things get." They sat in comfortable silence, the sound of waves lapping against the shore echoing their thoughts. Just as they were lost in the moment, Jake turned serious again. "Lily, about Mark." Lily looked at him, her expression supportive. "I understand if he's a part of your past, but we'll handle it together, just like everything else." Jake smiled appreciatively. "Thanks for being so understanding. I really want to leave that life behind me." "And you will," Lily reassured him. "You've already taken the hardest step by being honest with me, and I'm here to support you." As they watched the sun dip below the horizon, painting the sky with beautiful hues of purple and orange, they both felt a sense of hope and promise for the future. Suddenly, a seagull swooped down, stealing a chip from their picnic. Lily shrieked, and they both burst into laughter, the sound mingling with the soft roar of the ocean. "See? Even the seagulls want to join in on our family adventures," Jake said, wiping tears of laughter from his eyes. Lily grinned. "At least our kids will have plenty of funny stories to tell, right? Like that time the seagull stole our food." Jake leaned in closer, resting his forehead against hers. "No matter what happens, I promise to always choose love and laughter over fear. Together, we can face anything." "Together," she echoed, feeling her heart swell with joy. As they packed up their things, hand in hand, they walked away from the beach with dreams of the future dancing in their minds. They had turned a moment of uncertainty into a promise of love, laughter, and the beautiful life that lay ahead of them, leaving the shadows of the past behind. And so, Lily and Jake's journey continues, filled with love, challenges, and the promise of a bright future together. Moral of the story: love thrives on trust and communication. Embracing the unknown together can transform fears into a shared dream, creating a beautiful tapestry of life that blends laughter, understanding, and hope for the future. Silence,